right, it is 13 minutes to 5 o'clock. Riley, the last time we had this man on the program, it was fresh off him tipping the winner of the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe at $17. So we're hoping he can do something similar for the Drive listeners in tomorrow's Melbourne Cup. And, of course, the man I speak of is Andrew Hawkins. Good afternoon or good evening to you, Hawk, over there in Melbourne. How do we find you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. No, look, it's been a great build up to this cup, and very excited for what's to come tomorrow. Hopefully, the rain stays away after what's been a pretty wet 24 hours here in Melbourne.
What are you expecting, Hawk, track conditions wise? I'm hearing estimations anywhere from a soft 5 to the worst side of a soft 7.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be in the soft range. I think it all depends whether it rains during the meeting tomorrow. The latest forecast I saw, which was about 45 minutes ago, suggested that if there was to be any rain during the meeting, it'd probably be after the Cup. As long as the rain stays away during the meeting, I think we're looking at probably a 5 to a 6. Maybe an improving 6 might be what we expect. But look, I think I walked the track on Saturday. It was very firm already underfoot. It had that grass cover on top, so it was a genuine good 4 going up to a good 3. But you could tell that Liam O'Keefe, the track manager at Flemington, had really left the track to take the rain that was going to be coming. So look, I think the track should be in perfect order. I wouldn't be too concerned about too many of the runners getting onto a soft track.
Before we go any further, we have to plug this piece that you do every year for Idle Horse. It's idlehorse.com, and the previews front and centre. Who will win the 2025 Melbourne Cup? Andrew Hawkins, expert preview. It is, without a doubt, one of the more in-depth previews you'll find for any race worldwide. You've got speed maps, you've got individual summaries of each horse's chances, you've got some of these stats. You've got the colours horses have worn when winning the race. So white 76 times, black 59, red 48. You've got how many times every barrier has won. I don't know how barrier 25 has a win, but apparently it does. You've got graphs, Melbourne Cup weight versus odds. So Carbine carried 65 and was a short price favourite there at the top of the graph. You've got different graphs showing what age they won, where they've come from in Australia, where they've come from worldwide. How long does it take you to produce this piece of, or this article with all these statistics?
Oh, look, it does take a while. Luckily, I've been collating quite a few of those Melbourne Cup stats over the past year, and so I figured I may as well put it into a few of those graphs. And there were some interesting ones there, that's for sure. I mean, one of the most interesting relating to this year's Cup is that the last time that Victoria had a Melbourne Cup winner in terms of them breeding a Melbourne Cup winner was back in 1973. And that was Gala Supreme. They haven't had one since. Half Yours, the only Australian bred in tomorrow's Cup, and he's a Victorian bred. So trying to be the first in 52 years. Even WA's had a couple since then in Black Knight and also Rogan Josh. So Victoria needs to improve there. But again, it's one of those things you can make stats really fit anything, but it's just interesting to put some of the raw stats there, let people make up their own minds. And then obviously write my own things about each horse and dive into some of the stories and some of the statistics around each runner, which is something that I just really enjoy doing.
Well, it's a fascinating race this year's edition, Hawk, and I guess the weather conditions or the unknown surrounding the weather conditions only adds a little bit more intrigue to it. I'm hoping you can give a push for the one I like at the double figures and River of Stars.
It's a bit of love around for that horse.
Is the Caulfield Cup form the form line you want to be following into tomorrow's race?
So a lot of people are having this debate about whether it is the form line or not. Look, I think the thing is, year after year, it has proven to be the right form line. I think that you look at this year, it may have been a weaker Caulfield Cup than it normally is, but the weights were different in the Caulfield Cup than they are in the Melbourne Cup. A couple of those horses at the top of the weights, like Al Riffa, weren't paid up or nominated for the Caulfield Cup, which means that you're getting some of these horses from the Caulfield Cup getting in on the 51, the 51 and a half, your River of Stars, your Valiant Kings. Look, I'm convinced that Valiant King and that Bart Cummings is the right form line for the spring, which if I think that's the case, then I have to think that the Caulfield Cup form will stand up, at least to some extent. And River of Stars, any rain around for her was always going to be a good thing. She produced a really good run in the Sydney Cup earlier in the year. The stars, no pun intended, seem to be aligning for her, and she's definitely a chance for me. She's probably the one that's going to be furthest forward in the field that's going to be sticking on. It's just about whether things are going to be coming from the back that could be running over the top of her. But look, I have her in the mix for sure. I think she's definitely a winning hope.
Now, Al Riffa was bet up and bet up big. Were you at the call of the card today? From all reports, there was some massive money thrown around it, and it was one of the better call of the cards in recent times.
It looked like it going in. It looked like it was going to be a really good call of the card because this market is quite difficult yet to assess. There's still quite a few there that you think, that market really could just open up. Look, I was there for the start of the call of the card. Unfortunately, I had to leave to do some other work. Meant I had to go out into the rain in Melbourne, which is never ideal. But look, there were people there really ready to bet up and bet up big. And as you say, it was a fascinating call of the card. And I just don't know who's actually going to jump favourite tomorrow. There's probably 4 or 5 horses that could jump favourite. And Al Riffa's probably the one that you'd be thinking, based on the call of the card, could start favourite. But, I mean, look, he does have a lot of weight, 59 kilos. No horse has carried more than the 58.5 since 1969. So it's going to be a big ask for him.
Well, just on Al Riffa, Andrew, you said 59 kilos. He's won the Irish St. Ledger, a great form race, you'd think, coming into a Melbourne Cup, drawn the wide barrier. But just looking at your graph here that you've got on your idle horse page, the last horse to sort of be around that $10 to $9 mark and win with 59 kilos was Delta back in 1951. So it's not been really a winning formula, having a sufficient amount of weight or a solid amount of weight such as 59 kilos and sort of starting around the $8, $9 mark.
Absolutely. And I think you look at the fact that a horse like Think Big, for instance, when he carried a big weight in 1969, he sort of ended up in the market by default. Big Faloo came out 39 minutes before the race. So it is one of these things that it's a difficult ask for Al Riffa, but again, it is different from the days of Delta because the limit weight is so much different. Back in the day, a year limit weight would have been in the mid 40 kilograms, whereas now it's 51 kilos. So he doesn't have to give away as much weight as some of those horses have in years gone by.
There was a horse, Riley, back in the 19th century that carried 33 kilos to win the Cup. Must have had a monkey on its back.
That's ridiculous. 33.
I don't know how that works.
That can't be right.
What about Half Yours? He's the only Australian-bred horse in the race, would you believe, Hawk? He's the only Australian-bred horse in the race. He's out of that Caulfield Cup form line. What did you make of that Caulfield Cup? There's plenty saying he had the world-perfect run on that occasion. How do you think you'll see out the 2 miles?
Look, I don't have an issue with him at the 2 miles. I just wonder whether everything's come a little too soon for him just for this year's race. He was geared right towards the Caulfield Cup from the moment he won the Caloundra Cup. Everything was about the Caulfield Cup for this year. So the Melbourne Cup, in that sense, was an afterthought. But look, he'll stay 2 miles, I've got no doubt. I remember back about 15 years ago having something on his sire, actually, pre-post to win the Melbourne Cup. He never made it to the race. So Half Yours now getting there. Look, he swims. He'll love a wet track. I've taken him on personally just because I like a couple of those horses from the Caulfield Cup to turn the tables. But if you do like him, he's one of those horses that, if you like him, you can easily make a case for him, and you're getting a pretty good price about a Caulfield Cup winner if you're keen.
What about your thoughts on the race, Hawk? There's, as you made mention of, it's going to be an incredible race, a number of runners in the market. The market doesn't even know which runners that it wants. How are you seeing the race? And I guess, which horses are you going to be making results there in our great race tomorrow?
Yeah, look, I think the market has it pretty right. I think that the market has got the right horses at the top. I'm one of these people who is always trying to find a bit of value, and it hasn't quite worked for me in recent years. I've hit the crossbar a couple of times with horses like Solcombe and Akita Sushi. For me, it's Presage Nocturne and Valiant King are going to be the two that I really make sure are results. Again, both of them, last time I checked, were around the 850 mark. I'm going to be very interested to see what the market does with them tomorrow. There seems to be a lot of people around tipping Presage Nocturne, and I'm one of them. But again, I'm going to be interested to see what the market does. I think he'll relish the wet track more so than Valiant King. Valiant King, if he jumps favourite, I wouldn't be able to tell you the last time that a horse jumped at 100 to 1 year and then as favourite the next. It's just an extraordinary story, but he has looked incredible with the blinkers on at his last two starts. So I'll definitely be making the two of them results. And then exotics around horses like River of Stars. I mean, the two class horses at the top of the weights in Alrifa and Buckaroo. Look, I think Buckaroo will be fine. I know a lot of people are wondering whether he'll stay. I went back and watched his run last year, and Joe Moreira took off very early on him. He had to sustain a long run. No horse would have been able to sustain that run as long as he did. So I don't have an issue with him there. And then probably trying to make a couple of horses a bit out in the market, like your Arapahoes and Torrenzino's somehow work as well in exotics. Arapaho, if you watch his Bendigo Cup run last week, he had 61 kilos, which is 6.5, 7 kilos more than anything else in the race. And it was a barrier trial. He was out there just to make sure he was A-OK. He was back in the field and ran on late. He beat River of Stars in that Sydney Cup, and he's another one who swims. So I think he's one who could run a race and outrun his odds. And Torrenzino coming through that Valiant King form line in the Bart Cummings and won the Geelong Cup. So it's a deep Melbourne Cup. I don't know whether it's the classiest Melbourne Cup, but there are a lot of chances, and you can make a case for plenty of them.
What about a few of these sort of pioneer gallopers? Flatten the Curve, who's been ridden by Thor. He's been all over the world. This time last year, would you believe, or you would believe, you'd know, but he was racing in Calcutta in India. I don't know what, in a 3,000 metre race there, and Thor was riding him on that occasion. He's been to Germany, France, America since. Then you've got Parchment Party, who is an American-bred, American-trained runner. I believe the first American-bred and trained runner to come to the Melbourne Cup. What do you make of those two horses and their chances?
Yeah, Flatten the Curve. So it's interesting. He changed trainers not long after that, and he's been with Henk Brewer, who has him now for a year, and he's been unbeaten on turf. The only race he was beaten was in New York going back to June, and that was the race that Parchment Party won, the Belmont Gold Cup. But they only moved it from turf to dirt about 35, 40 minutes before the race because of torrential rain. So
That's wild.
It's quite well. It's crazy, and what's also crazy is that Parchment Party was listed as main track only, which means that had the race not been moved from the turf to the dirt, he wouldn't have run. So it's quite extraordinary. It's American racing for you. It's a very different beast. But Flatten the Curve, he reminds me quite a bit of horses like Red Cardinal and Sound. Now, they ran midfield about 7-8 years ago. Very similar form lines. So in my mind, I'm thinking he probably finishes in a similar position. But again, one who really appreciated a wet track. Parchment Party, look, great to have the Americans here. It's, as far as I know, the first ever American-trained horse to run in Australia full stop. So quite an extraordinary moment for Australian racing. It's just difficult with quarantine. They don't have a quarantine facility that can bring horses to Australia, which is why it hasn't happened before. His trainer, Bill Mott, won the first ever Dubai World Cup with Cigar. He won the Kentucky Derby earlier this year with Sovereignty. Very, very good trainer. His jockey, John Velasquez, he's ridden in Australia once before. He rode at the Magic Millions meeting at the Gold Coast in 2016, comes to Australia for the first time. The thing with the horse, he's only run twice on turf. They were in sort of what you'd call sort of a level below listed races, probably the equivalent of an open handicap in Florida, and he just couldn't quicken on turf. He just got back in the field and couldn't run into it. He's a horse that really needs dirt to be able to sustain his run. He can make a 1,200 metre sprint, but the thing is, you just can't be doing that on turf. On turf, you need to be able to settle, and then sprint, a 400-metre sprint there. So Pass and Party, I have him 24th to 24 in my numbers, but yeah, interesting horse.
We've had a texter ask about Further. Do you give the Andrew Boulding trained galloper from the UK much of a chance here?
He is one horse that I really struggle to assess, because when he is on song and when he's running to his best, he is very, very good. But he is so inconsistent. I wonder whether there's something there, whether he has some internal issues. I'm not sure. That's just me postulating. But when he's good, he's very good. He won a race called the Jeffrey Freer, which has produced Melbourne Cup horses before. He beat a horse called Epic Poet by 3 lengths, and Epic Poet has been running around against some of the best stayers in the world. He beat Presage Nocturne easily in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia earlier in the year. So, look, the form lines are good, but again, he just mixes his form. I saw him at Werribee yesterday morning. He's a very good-looking horse, and as I say, for me, I'm taking him on, but I am taking him on and am a bit scared of him at the same time.
All right, there we go. Have we got your final numbers, your final staking plan, or your numbers for the Cup tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll give you the top 4 that I've got, which will be number 6, that being Presage Nocturne, to beat number 24, Valiant King, number 21, River of Stars, 3rd, and I threw the 1, Our River, into 4th. So pretty close to what the market's got, which is not something I normally do, but for me, if things play out the way I hope it's Presage Nocturne coming down the centre of the track at Flemington tomorrow.
There we go. The grey, as efficient did in 07. Really good run in the Caulfield Cup for Alessandro Botti. That's the on top of $9, $2.90 each way at the moment. Tab touch for Presage Nocturne. Hey, Hawk, it's always a pleasure catching up with you, mate. Thank you so much for your time. And we hope you have a winning day tomorrow there at Flemington.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.